Have you ever noticed that the minute you sit down, your mind instantly starts with, you should be doing more, or you need to do this, or you get 1 minute to sit, that's it. And you've been tired for hours and weeks and days. But the minute you want to rest, that's when the guilt starts to set in. And I think that's because we've been taught that rest needs to be earned and can only be taken after we finished everything. And that the minute that we slow down, we are falling behind. Now, when you say that out loud, does that make any sense? And since it doesn't, why do we allow our minds to believe that it is? Welcome back to Morning Coffee Talk. Last week we chatted about self-care and the types of self-care that actually help support you. And this week we're going to slow down a bit and talk about how to rest without feeling guilty. So if you're new here, I'm Jess, and this is where we slow down, get honest, and figure out how to elevate your mindset, your habits, and your peace. So I share things like this every week. And if this sounds like the perfect place for you, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps our little community grow. So grab your coffee and let's chat. So why is rest uncomfortable? I think rest is uncomfortable because we have learned to tie our worth to how much we are doing. And I don't know when we decided that productivity became proof that we're responsible, proof that we are disciplined, and proof that we are doing enough. And then what happens is that the rest that we are getting isn't rest, it just feels like a failure. And I think what's interesting is that the guilt that we feel when we are resting isn't because we're ignoring something that is important. It is because we are not used to being still without explaining ourselves. When we do rest, we are mentally going through our to-do list, things that we should be doing. And so when we are essentially resting, it's not really rest. It's just recovery with shame attached. And we're all living by these imaginary rules that I'll rest when everything is done. I will slow down when we're finally caught up. And I will relax when I feel like I deserve it. But let's be honest, there's something that always could be done. And when you are only resting when everything is finished, then the rest never really comes. And when we do not rest, our body will force us to, either through exhaustion or burnout or just mentally being done. And what we need to do is remind ourselves that rest is what allows us to keep going. And what we forget is that rest does not take from you, but it protects you. So we need to learn how to rest before our body forces us to. And if we could do that, that is one of the most disciplined things that we can do for ourselves. So how do we rest without feeling guilty? What I've noticed is that guilt has a tendency of showing up when I'm resting. Not before, not after, but during. And it's that little voice, the one that's telling you that you should be doing more. You are wasting your time and you are falling behind. But why? It's because we were conditioned from childhood that if you are standing still, you are not moving forward, and in a sense, you are falling behind. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think that this applies to anytime you are trying to achieve your personal or your business goals, because the ability to evolve and adapt is crucial to preventing regression. However, this does not apply to rest. And acknowledging this is your first step to resting without guilt. Pausing to rest is critical to your future progress and allows you to reflect and process your experiences. So when you hear that little voice that's nagging you, telling you you're not doing enough, remind yourself that not only does rest prevent burnouts, but it also boosts your creativity. It improves your performance and it enhances your clarity. Doing this will begin to reform those thoughts or those habits that you learned as children. And then once you finally realize that guilt isn't true, it'll lose all its authority. Our next step to resting without feeling guilty is learning how to rest before a crisis occurs. And that's one that I think that we don't talk about enough, because a lot of us wait until we're completely exhausted instead of proactively incorporating rest into our daily routines. In the previous video in this self-care segment, I chatted about the types of self-care that help you prevent a burnout. That's energy care, emotional care, boundary care, mental care, and soul care. These are the ones that we should be trying to incorporate into our daily routines every day. If you add one, a few, or all of them, they can all feel uncomfortable at first, but they slowly will start to feel like your normal day-to-day routines. And not only will they prevent burnout, but they will also allow you to incorporate the rest that you need before the crisis occurs. So if you haven't done so, please go back and watch that video, because we give a lot of great tips on how to incorporate self-care into your daily routines, and not just those aesthetically pleasing ones. It's the ones that actually help you from the inside. So, guilt sticks around because you're not resting, or like we said before, when you are resting, your mind is still going. Have you ever thought that why is it when you lay down or when you're ready to go to sleep, your thoughts instantly flood your mind? It's because when you remove distractions, your thoughts, your unresolved issues, and your worries are amplified. So I wanted to list a few ways on how to quiet that guilt when you are resting. The first one is limit your screen time before you rest. Doing so will help reduce that blue light and that mental stimulation that you get from all of your devices, and it calms your brain, helping for a better rest. Set times to journal or write down any of your worries so that you are addressing them before you're resting. Doing so can help unload that mental clutter, reduce any anxiety, and also quiet those racing thoughts so that when you do rest, your mind is not still going. Focus on your breathing and meditation. Doing so slows your heart rate and calms your mind and allows you to transition easily into rest. Reduce stimulants like coffee, caffeine, or alcohol. Stimulants affect your nervous system. They raise your heart rate, your blood pressure, and your alertness, and it makes it hard for you to wind down. Don't be afraid to seek professional help. It is common for guilt to feel overwhelming and persistent, and it can even interfere with your day-to-day life. And seeking professional help helps identify and change negative thought patterns when fueling guilt. So doing these things throughout the day or before resting can help quiet those thoughts and allow you to rest fully. With that being said, I don't think that resting without guilt is something that we do once and we magically don't have to struggle with it again. It takes practice, and that is okay. Taking the time to show up for ourselves differently than we have before takes courage, because it's new and uncomfortable. But you know what? You're teaching yourself that your well-being matters. And honestly, that is something that we are all still learning. I'm really glad that you are here with me for this one, because a lot of us struggle with how we can rest without feeling guilty. In our world, we strive for perfectionism and we rely on productivity pressure. But choosing to sit with a conversation about rest and guilt already says a lot about where you're at right now. So, next week, we're going to talk about how to rebuild a rhythm, a routine that actually fits your life, your energy, and the person you're becoming. So, make sure you're subscribed and you have that notification bell on. And I'll see you next Sunday. Same time, same coffee.